Welcome to the INFOWARS Nightly News. It is Tuesday, June 21st, 2016, and I'm Leanne McAdoo. Here's what's coming up tonight.
Tonight, a moderate Muslim role model speaks out against homosexuality.
Punishment is one of 5 things. One, the easiest one maybe, chop their head off.
Then, Hillary's been hacked. Guccifer 2.0 chronicles hundreds of new documents that reveal a series of scandals directly linked to the criminal Clinton Foundation. Meanwhile, Donald Trump announces his takedown plan for crooked Hillary. Plus, inside the FBI's facial recognition database, 411 million photos of 90% non-criminals. All that plus much more up next on the INFOWARS Nightly News.
More internal memos hacked from the DNC servers have been released, and now this one's being called the Hillary Clinton dossier. This is a 42-page leaked DNC document titled Clinton Foundation Vulnerabilities Master Doc Final, and it shows that the Clinton Foundation scandals are the major vulnerabilities for what the DNC has been preparing for. Now, it totals over 22,000 words in length, and it paints a portrait of a political party that's been besieged by media coverage of foreign Clinton Foundation donations. But I really think they overprepared because, as we've seen, that really hasn't happened. Now, obviously, some media outlets have reported on these things, but they haven't really done a lot of digging into exactly what was going on. But the DNC, as you can see, was really prepared for them to go after a lot of her scandals. Now, these are politically toxic to the DNC as far as the Clinton Foundation's acceptance of foreign donations during her tenure as Secretary of State. The Clinton Foundation received donations from individuals tied to Saudi Arabia while she served as Secretary of State. And indeed, we reported on how there was a video that briefly surfaced. It was immediately taken down, but it was a Saudi prince talking about how they had invested almost $25 million into Hillary Clinton's campaign, even though she's a woman. You know, look how liberal he is. He's helping to prop up our political leaders here, which of course is illegal. So that right there looks very bad on her. But you can see in all the sections titled Clinton Foundation Individual Foreign Donors, these are headlines that people working for the DNC kind of made up themselves, showing they were really concerned about these scandals, and they internally knew that this was a big problem. Why can't the rest of America see that as well, people who are still with her? And also they go on to talk about the debacle that was the Clinton Foundation's handling of billions of dollars of taxpayer funds going to help rebuild Haiti. A complete disaster there. That was in 2010. Many of those people are still living in tents. But the Clinton Foundation did a really good job at building up a nice resort and a 5-star hotel. So good job. While a lot of the billions of tax dollars are just laying waste there. And also, too, this is kind of showing the vulnerability of the servers, because the Clinton Foundation said that her servers have been breached by Russian hackers. But the Clinton Foundation says, you know, well, we haven't been notified of the breach, and they declined to comment even further, even though they have released documents showing the names of donors, how much they have given to the Clinton campaign, and a lot of other personal information, but they're going to deny and say everything is okay. Hillary Clinton came out today and attacked Donald Trump on the economy. She was basically saying that if you give Donald Trump, put him behind the steering wheel of the American economy, he's going to likely drive it off a cliff, and working families would bear the brunt. But hopefully Donald Trump will respond with the obvious, that that's exactly what the Democrats have already done. They've driven the economy over the cliff. And her husband actually signed NAFTA. So 5 million jobs were transferred to low-wage authoritarian hellholes in China and Asia. Democrats are, of course, pushing hard for the TPP, which is a central player in TPP is Vietnam. The average hourly rate there is $1.05 per hour. And so a lot of transnational corporations are just chomping at the bit to get this passed so that they can ship even more jobs offshore where they're going to be able to rake in higher profits because it's lower costs of labor and compliance costs. So we're going to be hearing that giant sucking sound once again. Hillary Clinton, who helped cobble together the TPP, she called it gold at one point. Now, after they were able to get that fast track authorization, she said, oh, actually, you know what? I don't think it's such a good idea, because she knows what it's actually going to do to workers. Meanwhile, she thinks she can come out and be a huge hypocrite and talk about how Donald Trump doesn't know what he's doing. So, of course, in true Trump fashion, he is going to come after her tomorrow, and he says he's got a new plan for the crooked Hillary takedown. This is according to some declarations he's been making on social media, he's calling out crooked Hillary's bad temperament, according to a new book that's set to be released by a former Secret Service agent who said he actually witnessed Hillary Clinton throwing a Bible to the back of someone's head. But Trump's making it really clear that no issue is going to be out of bounds for him. He is, according to these posts, he's going to be coming after her on immigration, jobs, debt, the Clinton Foundation's acceptance of these foreign donations, and of course, her help in creating the Islamic terror group ISIS. And that's something he really should be hammering on, because a lot of people don't understand the ties and how Hillary Clinton was there, the deal with Benghazi and how they were funneling weapons through Libya. I mean, just total dirty, dirty tricks coming out of the Clinton camp there. And now for those of you who are going to be outside protesting Trump's speech, wanting to make America Mexico again, why don't you take a look at what would actually be happening if you were in Mexico protesting? So there was a deadly clash once again between the Mexican police and protesting teachers. Now they call these Radical Teachers Union, the National Coordinator of Education Workers. They're opposed to mandatory testing of teachers as part of Mexico's sweeping education reform. And they're also protesting the arrest of union leaders on money laundering and other charges. Of course, this is the corrupt Mexican government, Mexican police that can just file these fake charges and get these people out of their hair. And then, of course, as we know, 40 plus were murdered, bodies never found. And this is just a small part of it. But you know what? A lot of protesters think that that's what we need here in the United States of America. Just what a wonderful thing it would be if protesters could clash with police in this way. Now, the U.S. House has rejected a bill to restore the Fourth Amendment. Now, this is just 4 days after we saw what happened in Orlando, where another terrorist was under FBI surveillance, but completely useless, apparently. But the House has rejected efforts to end this warrantless government spying. So, of course, they were able to use the Orlando terror attack to scare everyone into thinking that we need that warrantless government spying. And, you know, the government can continue to excuse itself from the bounds of the Constitution because terrorism. So once again, you know, we're getting screwed here. And then Justice Sonia Sotomayor spoke out about another Fourth Amendment ruling that took place on Monday. And she said it's going to corrode civil liberties. And this one had to do a case involving a Utah man who contested his arrest for a stop by police that was ruled unlawful. And the high court ruled that evidence found on the man could be used as evidence, even if the search of his person violated the Fourth Amendment ban on unreasonable searches and seizures. So now they're saying that it's totally okay. A cop can stop you. And that's what she's arguing here, that it's going to be disproportionately against people of color. But it doesn't matter if you're black or white or poor, rich, guilty, innocent, whatever. This is basically setting a precedent that cops can now stop you. They can ask for your papers, please. They can violate your rights, and you can be subject to the whims of any police officer here. So this is definitely a precedent-setting case. And now there's 4 upcoming decisions going to be taking place this week on affirmative action, abortion, and immigration. So these are some pretty important decisions that are being made here this week. And also, we've had a series of gun control measures that failed to clear the Senate as well. Jakari Jackson has more.
The unfortunate mass shooting in Orlando has once again brought along calls for gun control. And while many people will try to convince you that Americans all across the nation are calling for stricter gun restrictions, if you go talk to the gun shops or the big box stores who've been selling these things out the door since the incident has happened, it's not exactly that clear cut and dry. Now I'm going to talk about some of the gun control measures that failed here recently. And before I get into this article from Fox News, I want to talk briefly about the situation that's going on in Connecticut and also New York, where they had a look at the gun control bills, basically the SAFE Acts going up there, and those remained unchanged. Now, what we're going to be talking about here is something different from that. And as we talk about the gun control measures that failed to clear the Senate, we see 4 of them here. We'll start with the one from Senator Chuck Grassley. And this was to enhance funding for an existing gun background check system, which needed 60 votes to pass. The final vote was 53 to 47. Now, first of all, now this isn't going to be a debate whether or not we should or should not have gun background checks. I understand shall not be infringed and all that. I'm just talking about as the system as it exists today. When I go to a gun store or I go to a gun show and I purchase a firearm, I always go through the NICS background check system where I give them my ID, I fill out the paperwork, they call the FBI or whoever they have to call, and then they see that I have no criminal record and they give me my firearm. Now, that's my case. If you have criminal records or you're on a terror watch list or whatever else, you will be denied from that system. So I don't see any issue with the system as it exists today. People say that they need to have various mental health screenings. And that's another whole issue that I think is not exactly up to snuff with where it needs to be before we can implement that across the board, because we've shown you the studies of the DSM-5 where you have any kind of variable in your mood or personality, they want to call that a mental health disorder. That's why I'm very skeptical of things like that. We'll move on now to the second measure here by Senator Chris Murphy, and this would expand gun background checks to close the supposed gun show loophole that failed 44 to 56. Now, once again, as I was saying, when I go to the gun show, every time I bought a gun from the gun show, I think I bought 2 guns from a gun show, both times I had to go through the background check system where I gave the guy my ID, I filled out the form, he called FBI, whoever he had to call, and they realized that, yes, this guy is safe to sell a firearm to. Now, I know many people out there will try to convince you if you go to a gun show, there is no background check. The guys are just, swapping guns left and right. And is it technically legal for a independent, being myself, not an FFL dealer, to sell a gun without a background check to somebody else? Yes, that is legal, but this notion that you can go to a gun show and not have to have any background check is completely false, and this is evidence courtesy of Steven Crowder.
What is this?
This is the NICS background check.
Oh, I thought at gun shows you didn't have to do a background check.
Oh, no.
Okay. I know technically you can't sell it, but are any of these fully automatic?
Negative.
Real quick, sorry, I'm in a hurry. Can I get a gun here without a background check?
And that's a more realistic view, even though it's comedic, of what happens when you go to an actual gun show. Let's go on to Senator John Cornyn. He was proposing a delay of sale to a suspected terrorist for 72 hours. Once again, this sounds very reasonable on its face, and I'd like to give Senator John Cornyn credit and say that maybe he doesn't understand the system as it exists today. We've done numerous reports documenting people who are on the terrorist watch list, the no-fly list, if you will, and we've shown you the reports of Boy Scouts and little girls and kids with candy stuck in their teeth getting kicked off of planes because they have the same name with the same birthday or whatever else as a suspected or listed terrorist. And while we would like to believe that we are in a better world where a government official could identify that, no, this little Boy Scout is not an actual terrorist, he's just a little boy, that kid got kicked off the plane. So when you have these measures, including the next one we're going to talk about with Mrs. Feinstein saying that basically if you're on a terror watch list for anything, you won't be able to buy a firearm. Just basically take anybody on the terror watch list and expand it out to other areas of life. The issue with that, as well as the issue with what Cornyn is proposing, is you're assuming that these systems work as they are today. And as I just gave the example about the little kids, they do not work perfectly. So let's take the example of that little boy, New York Times article, Boy Scout, or the little girl, 4 or 5 years old, whatever she was, not being able to board that plane. If you expand this no-fly list to a no-buy list or no, whatever list, that means when those kids turn 16, they're not going to be able to get a job. They're damn sure not going to be able to join the military when they become military age. And on the terror watch list, oh, definitely not. That's my issue with these watch lists. Now, In a perfect world, if they could get out these kinks and find out who's really on